Hello, this is another one of my videos on the first Baha'i 9-year plan from 1964 to 1973. This one dealing with translation and diversity goals. It comes from an old manuscript of mine, The Universal House of Justice of the Baha'i World, 1963-1973. As with other videos in this series, the basic text is the book Messages from the Universal House of Justice 1963 to 1986, and there's also an old article I co-wrote with Moojan Momen, The Baha'i Faith 1957-1988, which provides background context. An essential adjunct to the successful consolidation of the Baha'i Faith as a global religion is the ready availability of its literature in a large number of languages. This was an objective on which Dr. Effendi had placed much emphasis, encouraging the Baha'is to translate both Baha'i scripture and expository works into the indigenous languages around the world as part of the expansion plans which he initiated. The same policy was continued by the Universal House of Justice. Already by 1964, Baha'i literature had been produced in some 323 languages, including Esperanto and Interlingua, and the 9-year plan called for translations to be made into an additional 133 languages. In the event, translations were made into an additional 266 languages, giving a final total of 589 languages by 1973. By continent, the largest group of languages were African, 32% of the total, followed by the languages of the Americas, 30%, Asia, 17%, Australasia, 12%, and Europe. Evidently, the amount of Baha'i literature translated into some of these languages was quite limited in extent, amounting perhaps to little more than a prayer or two. But clearly, for an increasing number of languages, the available Baha'i literature was better developed, including both scripture and works of exposition. In this context, it is of note that one of the goals of the 9-year plan was for the enrichment of Baha'i literature through additional publications in 45 languages, 5 in the Americas, 23 in Asia, and 17 in Europe. Some indication of the extent of Baha'i literature available in 1963 is given in a lengthy listing of selected titles in various languages in the Baha'i World Volume 13. I've given the page numbers there if you're interested. Languages with at least 5 published titles, excluding pamphlets, included Albanian, Arabic, Burmese, Danish, Dutch, English, Esperanto, Finnish, French, German, Hindi, Italian, Japanese, Canarese, Persian, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish, Tamil, Turkish, and Urdu. If works in manuscript or mimeograph copy were also included, then we should add Armenian, Bulgarian, Chinese, Czech, Indonesian, Korean, Norwegian, Samoan, Serbian, Sesotho, Swahili, and Swedish. Unfortunately, Volume 13 of Baha'i World, covering the years 1954-63, is the last to include so much detailed information on Baha'i publications and translations, which makes it more difficult to make comparisons with later years. The House emphasized that the translation of Baha'i literature into new languages was urgent, in that it helped to determine the effectiveness of the teaching work. It should also be carefully coordinated with the settlement of pioneers into the areas where the languages were spoken. Turning now to publishing. Baha'i books were produced by a variety of publishers. By the end of the 10-year crusade, in 1963, a total of 8 national Baha'i publishing trusts had been established in Argentina, Brazil, Britain, Germany, India, Iran, Uganda, and the USA. The 9-year plan called for the establishment establishment of 4 more in Belgium, Italy, Pakistan, and Tunisia. In the event, a total of 7 new trusts were established, bringing the overall total to 15 by 1973. In addition to those planned in Belgium, Italy, and Pakistan, there were new trusts in Spain, Sweden, and Taiwan. A trust formed in the Lebanon presumably took the place of the trust originally projected for Tunisia as a publisher for Arabic Baha'i literature. In addition to the publishing trusts, that is bodies with a separate legal existence from their respective national spiritual assemblies, official Baha'i publishing was also conducted by publishing committees established by a number of other national assemblies. There were also a small number of independent publishers specializing in the production of Baha'i literature, notably George Ronald of Oxford in England, which had been established in 1947 and effectively was the first independent Baha'i publisher in the world. The Universal House of Justice also established its own publishing arm. Between them, these trusts, committees, and private publishers were able to generate an increasing volume of Baha'i literature in most of the major languages of the world, most particularly in English, but also in Arabic, Chinese, French, German, Italian, Persian, Portuguese, and Spanish. Perhaps even more than had been the case during the guardianship of Shoghi Effendi, English was now the preeminent language of Baha'i publishing, as well as of international Baha'i discourse. Persian language Baha'i works remained relatively difficult to obtain outside of Iran. However, the Pahlavi regime tacitly permitting the Iranian Baha'is to lithograph quantities of literature for their own use, but not allowing large-scale publication. Some small indication of the preeminence of English is provided by a select list of general introductory and expository Baha'i books provided by the Baha'i World Center for 1973. Of 42 titles, 34 were available in English, 18 in Spanish, 12 in French, 10 in German, 9 in Portuguese, 5 in Persian, and 4 in Arabic. That is obviously some titles were in several languages. Most of the books in languages other than English were translations from English, but there were 6 Spanish and 2 German works which had evidently been authored in those languages and had not been translated into any other language. A similar list of 17 major published works of Baha'u'llah and Abdul-Baha comprised 16 in English, 14 in Persian, 13 in German, 11 in French, 10 in Arabic, 9 in Spanish, and 5 in Portuguese. Finally, in this video, let's turn to the topic of ethnic diversity. One of the objectives which Shoghi Effendi had set for Baha'is was to increase the diversity of their membership, both in terms of social background and what we would nowadays refer to as ethnicity. By reaching out to all groups within their societies, the Baha'is would both proffer their life-giving message to all peoples and demonstrate to all that the Baha'i faith was able to unite people of diverse backgrounds. The concept of human diversity is extremely complex, of course. In some societies, particularly linguistic, religious, tribal, I put tribal in quotes, and perceived racial differences are significant and sharply defined. And others, they're not. Again, the definition of significant difference varies greatly from one society to another, whilst the ethnic identity of particular individuals may vary from one context to another. These complexities notwithstanding, Shoghi Effendi himself prepared lists of races represented. Races, again, of course, is a problematic term. Races represented in the Baha'i world community, minority groups and races which had been contacted by the Baha'is, and African tribes represented in the Baha'i faith. The Hands of the Cause followed this example and provided lists of races and tribes represented in the faith at the end of the 10-year crusade in 1963. there being 71 of these races, putting that in quotes, 348 African peoples, 83 Amerindian peoples, and 87 Asian and Pacific peoples. For its part, the Universal House of Justice, as part of the 9-year plan, prepared a list of 55 minority groups and races which were to be increasingly taught and enrolled in the faith. Under its direction, lists were also prepared of tribes and peoples represented in the Baha'i faith, as of Press 1, 1968, with 662 for Africa, 165 for the Americas, 228 for Asia, and 64 for Australasia. That's 1,119 in total, and of major ethnic and language groups represented in the Baha'i world community, 92 in all. In the summary report at the end of the plan, only overall numbers were given, however, with an increase in the worldwide number of indigenous tribes, races, and ethnic groups represented in the Baha'i faith from an estimated 518 in 1964 to 1,607 for 1973. Given the ambiguity of concepts like tribe and race, these lists and figures raise major definitional problems, but the overall picture is clear enough. During the 9-year plan, as previously in the 10-year crusade, the Baha'is were successful in significantly increasing the ethnic diversity of their community. So, many thanks to you for listening, and particular thanks to my patron supporters, without whom I wouldn't be able to make these videos. You're very welcome to support my channel. Please do like, comment, and share on the videos. Subscribe if you want to be notified of future videos. I'll give a Patreon link below in case you want to provide practical support. Next week, we'll move on to the first set of videos on progress and implementation in the 9-year plan. Have a good day.